The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
All right, good morning, and thank you for joining us for another Concrete Ontario webinar. Today's topic is recruiting, training, and engaging ready-mix truck drivers. Hiring drivers continues to be a problem for our industry, and there are many challenges that go along with this issue. However, drivers are the backbone of the industry, and if we are continue to be successful, we do need to look at addressing some of these challenges. Hopefully the webinar today will help members to gain some insight about the issues at hand and how to address them. Now, my name is Alan Carey. I'm the Director of Technical Services at Concrete Ontario, and I will be your facilitator this morning. As always, the corporate sponsors do provide very generous support to the association. So I just want to recognize our corporate sponsors and thank them for their support. So London Machinery, MAC Canada, BSF, and Euclid Chemical, thank you very much. Just to run through some housekeeping, this will be approximately a 60-minute webinar. It is a little bit of a different format this morning. We do have a panel. So we have 3 presenters with 4 predetermined questions each. We will be introducing each panelist, and then we will be asking them questions and get their feedback. All participants are currently muted and will remain that way for the whole webinar. If you do have a question, please type in your question using the GoToWebinar questions pane on the right side of your screen, and we will address all questions at the end. The webinar is currently being recorded and will be posted on the Concrete Ontario website, along with a PDF copy of the presentation. So all prior webinars that we have conducted are on the website as well if you want to check them out. The new one will be posted either later today or tomorrow. Now, your panel moderator will be Bart Canters, President of Concrete Ontario. And I'm very happy to announce that it is Bart's birthday today. So happy birthday to Bart. Bart always says that he is living the dream. So it doesn't get a lot better than that. And he will be your panel moderator this morning. So I will turn it over to Bart now to kick off our webinar. Good morning, Bart.
Thank you, Alan. Appreciate it. Again, 50 was a big deal. 51 is just another day. But I do share this birthday with my daughter, so I'm very excited that she's 18 today as well, too. Anyway, moving on. So we want to start off, again, as Alan mentioned, by thanking all the drivers that make our industry the success that it is. And we'll come back and talk a little bit about that. We also would like to start off with a safety moment. We do have to acknowledge that back in 2019, in the City of Toronto, we had 3 pedestrian fatalities. 2 of them related to dump trucks and 1 related to a ready-mix truck. And again, that's way too many. As an outcome of that, we created a working group with the City of Toronto that includes a number of very important construction associations to try and address some of the challenges that we face in urban environments, making deliveries with very large construction vehicles to critical infrastructure projects. So as part of that process, we created this new working group. I'm trying to advance the slide, but it won't let me. There we go. And one of the programs that we developed was the Driver Safety Awareness Program. So the key objective here was to identify some basic messages that we could supply not only to the construction industry, but because the City of Toronto was involved and they have a significant number of drivers as well, it was to identify some of the key safety messages that we can reinforce with our industry every day. There we go. Oh, now we're both picking it. So we'll just go through an example, show a couple examples. We won't go through all 10, but again, safety tip 1 relates to avoiding distractions. So again, things like staying off the phone, staying off tablets. A lot of the newer trucks have 10-inch screens that can provide a lot of other functions. Again, ensuring that you're not eating. I'm not sure that looking in mirrors, watching yourself when you're driving is a big issue, but again, that was one that the consultant identified. So we'll move on. Tip number 2 relates to being sure that you can see where you're going. So again, on construction sites, we're often backing up into very tight locations in order to deliver ready-mix concrete. So again, checking mirrors, making sure that mirrors are properly set up, making sure that windows are clean so you can see clearly, And again, we're doing more and more night work. So again, ensuring that we have proper lighting, those are all critical issues that have to be addressed. The association back in 2016 kicked off our blind spot awareness program. It was really focusing on children and cyclists. We're very happy to continue our work on this blind spot safety awareness program. We partnered with the Chatham-Kent Safety Village to sponsor their grade 4 cycling program. And again, a lot of that work was really driven by a past board member, Rick Zavitz, who unfortunately passed away last year. But we're very honored to continue that program in his name. So when we get to the industry, a few facts, obviously, when it comes to ready-mix concrete. Here in Ontario, our members produce about 10 million cubic meters. We've got 270 concrete plants and about 3,700 drivers. So we're making on average about 1.5 million deliveries per year to the construction industry. When it comes to some of the demographics, we're very fortunate to have a very stable workforce with an average age of tenure of 15 years, but our average age is getting up there at 50 years. So again, attracting new people to the industry is one of the critical issues that we're all facing. When it comes to ready-mix drivers, again, there's a lot of critical roles that they provide. Being a delivery specialist is one of the key issues, but it's not the only thing. Quite frankly, they're also a material expert. We often refer to them as the secondary batcher when it comes to the concrete industry because they're making the critical on-site modifications to the plastic concrete to make it usable on the job site for the customer. They also fill in important safety roles when it comes to working with our customers, and they're also a customer service rep. They're the face of the industry. They're the people that the customers physically deal with. And as the last item mentions, they make it happen every day and they make it happen safely, which is a critical role. So we're going to jump into our panel presenters right now. So our first panelist is Shelley Evenell-Hesh. Shelley is the CEO of the Women's Trucking Federation of Canada. She's been involved in the transportation industry for over 30 years. And her association's motto is in the office, under the hood, or behind the wheel, we're all pieces of the puzzle. You?
I'm doing well, Bart. How are you today?
Excellent. Well, thank you for taking the time to join us today. We did reach out to some members and have some questions that we prepared ahead of time for you. So we'll just jump right in. So the first question that we'd like to ask for you is, what would you recommend companies do to offer to attract women to driving careers? Oh my God, it's horrible there. What can we do to attract women to the driving industry? The first question.
Some of the main things that are very important to women today is whether or not a company has a good mentoring program. They're very interested in a diversity and inclusion in the workplace. What we're finding with some of the younger women, they tend to go in for a job interview and they scan the area as they're coming through. If they don't tend to see a lot of women already in there, they're a little leery about how they're going to be treated by that particular employer. Even though we still try to get to them that it's still very much a male-dominated industry and women are becoming more and more into the industry, they can't always gauge by that. We have some excellent male mentors. Some of the best mentors I had were men. And another thing that we notice is your advertising. A lot of companies use men to do their advertising. It's important to focus on women. It makes them feel that they're welcome there, that you really do want women in your workforce. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a female driver that you already have. If you don't have any yet, but that's what you're trying to project, use some ladies from your office, your safety people, your HR. They like to see real people so that when they come in, they see that friendly face when they come into the office.
Excellent. Okay, great points. Thank you for that. Second question, what are the top obstacles that women face when choosing driving as a career?
I really don't think the obstacles for women are any different than men. Currently, the biggest things are typical washrooms, safe parking, They want to know that if they have an issue, there's somebody there that's going to be able to listen. So really no different than the men are the obstacles that women have.
Okay, thank you. Third question, what can employers do to make their driving careers more attractive to women and thereby retain them once hired? Because retention is often a challenge that we face as well.
I had a unique situation come up with 2 female drivers, and I approached an employer, and the solution we came up to was that one of the ladies was only able to work in the morning and the other one was available in the afternoon. And this carrier needs the truck to move that 12, 13 hours a day. So what he has now done is he's put both of those ladies in the truck. They slip seat off in the afternoon, and thereby able to use the truck. He's been doing this for a year now with these 2 ladies. He said it's the best thing that was ever suggested to him. So I think, yeah, as a carrier, whether it's ready mix, long haul, short haul, we have to be a little bit more flexible. I think we have a lot of drivers, both male and female, that we might be able to utilize more if we were able to do a little bit more flexible hours and shifts.
Yeah, and I think as an industry, we've realized over the last couple months, again, there has to be more recognition for flexibility. We have customers that are looking for different hours, and I think we're all seeing there's both opportunities and challenges when it comes to how can we shift the work week or the hours per work for the work week around to accommodate schedules.
Yeah, that's true. And you know, another issue that's brought up to us by many women is the PPE and the clothing that most of the companies want you to wear. You're not getting it in women's sizes. So my hands don't fit in a men's glove. So when I have an inch or 2 at the end of my gloves and I'm trying to fuel or push a button, it's very hard for me to do that. So I think companies, branding is important, but you can also get the stuff in women's sizes. There's 5 or 6 different places right now that specialize in women's clothing, from coveralls to safety shoes to the safety shirt. So I think that's something that a company could seriously look at that would benefit them with their female employees.
Okay, no, that's a great point. Excellent. The fourth question that we had is, what do you see as the main decision factors between choosing a career in long haul versus short haul?
Short haul, a lot of women seem to feel that it is a physically demanding job and that they're not going to be able to do it. That's quite often what we hear. And for people that are just even thinking of a career in trucking, they don't know what ready mix is. You know, if you say ready mix, they'll look at you and like, what is that? And I'll say to them, concrete trucks. That they understand. So I think the terminology that we as an industry use for our trucks and what we do is not as what the public sees. So sometimes we have to remember that when we're putting out videos and advertising, that we need to bring it down to a public level and bring us out of the trucking world so that they understand what we're talking about.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. We get so wrapped up in our day-to-day operations and we understand it so well because we deal with it every day, and we forget that others that don't have the same experience don't really know what's involved in doing that job. So we definitely need to do a better job of outlining what's involved there.
I think excellent so. And just, you know, making it a little bit easier for people. I can tell you, like the videos that I shared that you did on Colleen Lizette, we had so many views of those videos, such a good conversation thread going on, people asking questions. Those types of little videos are very important. We need to showcase what we already have in our industry to bring more in, and we need to keep them real. It's really important. We find that those are better, and you don't have to spend a lot of money getting big videographers in to do this for you. You can do it off of your cell phone and make it more real, make it more personal. You can do a Facebook Live. Those go over really, really well, because while you're doing it, people have the opportunity to ask questions. So if you set it up where once a month or once every other week that you're going to do a Facebook Live, people start to get aware of it, and it attracts more people to what you're doing. Sometimes I think as an industry, we focus a lot on branding. Branding's very important. But you can do some videos of the driver in the truck and what they're doing and what they see and what they're experiencing by having your branding on their clothes. You can't always have them outside of the truck so that you can get the side shot with your logo on the door. We need to make it more realistic.
Okay, so excellent point, utilizing technology to highlight what the day-to-day operations are and get people more excited about what we do in the industry and the satisfaction that you can get out of your job.
That's just it. And I think it also will bode well for the industry in the fact that how safety conscious we are and how much safety training goes into what we all do and how we keep up to date with safety.
Excellent points. That's great. Well, thank you for that, Shelley. All right, well, we're going to park questions till the end. So our next presenter is Anna Gordon. So she has over a decade of experience in HR in large organizations and private career coaching, and she helps companies identify issues and implement real improvements for the employee to the organizational level. You collaborate with modern HR guidance so your organizational goals are achieved through effective recruiting and employment management. Anna holds a Bachelor of Communications from St. Mary's University, and I had to look it up, a Master's of Industrial Relations and Human Resources from the University of Toronto. So I'm going to welcome Anna this morning.
Thanks for including me, Bart.
Thank you. So we're going to focus a little bit. I know you've done a lot of work for the ready mix industry, and we appreciate that. So we'll start off with a couple critical questions. With the driver shortage in the industry, many organizations are contemplating investments in recruiting diverse hires. Why should organizations consider diverse hires, and what does an organization need to be successful with non-traditional hires?
I think I'll begin with a statistic from Trucking HR Canada that notes that truck drivers are on average 7.5 years older than the average age of our Canadian workforce. So this demonstrates the real need to branch out from the norm. We think we know what works well in our organizations for the skill sets that you're looking for, which traditionally have been toughness, mechanical aptitude, reliability. So these are great, but I'm guessing your typical operators also share some common weaknesses too. So why are we allowing such a big skill gap in our yard? Have you considered other skills like interpersonal skills, empathy, customer service ability? What about aptitude for technology and sales, or someone who's obsessed with quality and genuinely interested in the science behind your product of concrete? Oftentimes I've noted that our default concept with respect to diversity, we go to multiculturalism. That's only one piece of this, and I wanted to chat about today understanding the broader context. And Shelley has referred to women. There's also age, sexual orientation, disability, work experience. So my last little piece of theory for this answer before I go into some tangible examples are the reason that diverse hires will improve your workplace: innovation, productivity, reduced turnover with greater loyalty, customer benefits, a healthy, respectful workplace, as well as your employer branding that Shelley was talking about a few minutes ago. In order to be successful at recruiting and retaining diverse hires, you also need to show inclusivity in your workplace. So now for the tangible piece, which is how do we do this? And it really needs to be exhibited from all angles, where leadership really needs to model that diversity. A big takeaway that Shelley has already spoken about is including diverse photographs and language in all of your marketing materials, communications, website, social media, and even your job postings. When you communicate with someone for an interview, it's important to note that your organization is diverse and inclusive and that all accommodations will be considered. And I'll stop for a second and just allow you to think about the word considered. That's all I'm suggesting is a consideration. And if it's just a phone call, stating that is easy enough to do. You'd be surprised at how frequently diverse candidates don't feel they're represented in that material and they won't elect to apply. Furthermore, if you're looking to hire a younger demographic, post in a place where they're going to see it. Posting in a newspaper may not be as relevant. Allow them to quickly, easily apply with a few clicks of their button on a smartphone. So an example that I think helps with this concept of accommodation is something that I had recently. And I was interviewing for a position. And after I sent the candidate an email saying, you know, we'll see you tomorrow at 10 in the morning, etc., she wrote back and said that she'd recently suffered a concussion and had a difficult time with processing oral instructions throughout her recovery. She asked if I could provide her the interview questions 15 minutes in advance, which, like, that's easy. I can happily do that. And if we hadn't, she wouldn't have done well in the interview, and maybe we would have missed out on that potential excellent hire. And she's been really excellent ever since. Final piece to this answer that I do want to mention, it's a lot, so I'm not going to go into it deeply, but the idea that training is required for management and existing staff on these concepts of diversity and inclusion, as well as a well-executed and transparent safety and harassment policy. Leaders and owners have to advocate for and support these diverse hires. It's going to take time for the yard to recognize the value of the initiative and a little bit of extra time working with these individuals, but I promise it'll be worth that extra effort.
Okay, excellent. So some great points there when it comes to being open to feedback and showing that, again, it's not a rigid system, that you're willing to be flexible. Like, it sounds like one of the keys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, question 2. Not long ago, new hires revered senior truck drivers. They aspired to attain their skills, worth ethic, paycheck, allowing mentorship to occur naturally. Now, new young drivers have different motivators and aspirations compared to their senior coworkers. These differences are significant and can hinder traditional mentorship. Since teamwork is critical to integrating new hires, how do we facilitate the relationship between drivers at opposite ends of the seniority list?
So this is a very common question that exists across many industries. Millennials are now the most prominent in our Canadian workforce, and they're now being followed by their counterparts in Gen Z that we'll be learning about pretty soon. It's not a new problem, and it's been faced by our predecessors in the past. And the first suggestion I have, which I'm sure we all know, is genuinely understanding each other. There are some key differences between the generations, and the first is that millennials are not necessarily motivated by money, the concept of having a home, a family, and providing for that family. Just recently, I spoke with my Miller waste garbage collector, and I was asking him about his job. This is something, as an HR person, I'm always asking people about their jobs, what they like about it, what they don't, the challenges that they have. I mentioned that I knew that Miller Concrete was hiring, and he was like, oh, well, they make a lot of money, but they work really long hours, and I don't want to do that. And it seems counterintuitive that someone wouldn't want more money, but we need to be understanding of these different motivations and provide a real preview of what the role is like. I didn't get into this because obviously he had a job to do, but I wanted to say, did you realize that sometimes there's some flexibility in the winter when a little slower? And that. I've got 5 tips here that I wanted to go through for this. Recommending for management to develop an understanding of these differences. And this can be done in a relatively humorous fashion. An example of what it's like working with millennials. But I encourage you to look at the pros and the cons and really understanding where those pieces are coming from. While some interpret the fact that millennials ask a lot of questions as nosy, but in reality, is it because they care about how the organization functions? So be patient and listen to what they have to offer. Second idea, job is like. So feature some of your more seasoned to experience what it is. And that was something that Shelley Facebook Lives. Ask some of these more experiences. Be realistic challenges, and employees are going to have a nice time talking about their experiences. Next piece, younger employees, be sure to provide to how things need to be done, because it's going to cause frustration. Senior colleagues and supervisors to provide timely feedback. I'm sure we all know that millennials do like that timely feedback, and I'll refer you to the sandwich if you haven't heard of it before, which is the meat is the feedback, and then the top piece and the bottom piece of the bread are a compliment throughout. Really glad that you're working with them. You're really sure that they're going to do a great job moving forward, and it's just that one piece of information that you want to share. I know it sounds a little taxing, but this is done well during training. The effectiveness and engagement that you're going to see is going to have a much longer lasting relationship for your retention. Next is the idea to fix problems quickly when they arise. So millennials are focused on equity and the greater good of society. If they bring something forward that's not addressed, honestly, they disengage, they become less productive, and I've even seen people quit over something that is relatively small. So create those clear expectations and don't underestimate the importance of an accessible, clear employee handbook. And then the last idea that I have for this is that hiring drivers is a volumes game, which is no different with young workers. Make a commitment to hiring young drivers so they've got peers to go through the same experience with them. With a little guidance, they're going to build their own network to support each other.
Okay, great. I guess going back to my own personal life, being 50 plus, I really want to come back to the whole feedback idea. Again, I know that's something personally that I don't do a great job of. Maybe the older generation is, again, we really respect hard work and effort, but we don't offer enough direct feedback to people. Are there specific, how often do we really need to provide feedback to make it effective?
I think it depends on your individual, but you know, some people are actually going to want it daily, like thanks for a great day, see you tomorrow, great job on this, and then they leave with a smile. But then I would say, like, certainly with someone new, on a weekly basis would be appropriate. And the big key is if you do see an error, address it right away as much as it's feasibly possible in private, not in front of others, and again, sandwich it with the good pieces around it, which is what makes it a lot easier to hear.
Okay. Do younger drivers interaction with senior drivers? How can we facilitate that a little better? I know COVID-19 has put more challenges on us because we're keeping employees apart, so that makes it a little more difficult. But are there any? Is it weekly meetings with driver teams, or what can we do to try and accelerate that connection between drivers?
I think the weekly team meetings is a great idea, and they don't even need to be long. They can be sort of, 10 minutes of standing up. Something that I've seen organizations institute with the COVID concepts is even having a drop-in, something that you can come into that's not necessarily mandatory, and then they can have that option of just that 15-minute catch-up to talk about other non-related work things. And so that does encourage just some genuine collegiality, and we've seen a lot of that coming out of COVID because people aren't finding those informal times. So I think that could be one of the ideas, and then let me think about some other ideas about that and then get back to you on that one. I think that's a good piece.
Great. Well, thank you. Jumping to the third question then, as we talked about before, it's not just driving a truck. Operating a concrete mixer requires a lot of technical knowledge, skill, and dedication. But one of the challenges that we have is it can become very routine. How can we try and address complacency issues in the workplace?
Yep. Avoiding complacency isn't just all about appreciation events and flexibility, which a lot of the literature says if you have, a yearly party, everyone will be really happy. But if you want people to find fulfillment in their position, the job needs to feel exclusive and pretty cool. So enforcing a minimum standard of work is really important. It seems a little bit counterintuitive to some of the answers that I've already been talking about, but this is an important long-term play for engagement. When that standard is set and they achieve it, they feel appreciated and valued for the roles that they do. You want drivers to take ownership over their equipment, their job sites, creating a real sense of pride. It's critical to show them how they're contributing to the broader purpose of your organization's goals. And then the second piece to this answer that I thought about is that fundamentally, however, you do need to hire employees who are good at routine work. A more accurate measure of predicted job success is employment psychometric testing, which combines personality and preference testing. I was a touch hesitant to include this in today's answer because it's definitely an investment and can be a bit invasive for potential hires, but it's online testing and it can provide you with more comprehensive assessment of future success in enhancing your retention. Some personalities appreciate mastery of a role and pride themselves as having that, at which point you should celebrate that and remind them of their effectiveness, and where possible, use it as an example to your peers where applicable.
Okay. I've seen, going back to younger workers, I've seen companies where they have metrics up on the wall, whether it's on-time deliveries, quality control, and ranking of employees. Is that a good thing or a bad thing when it comes to trying to encourage engagement with the work and having stats, I guess?
I think group stats is where I would more so encourage that. I think with millennials, they're not as competitive and they're more for the greater good of society. So having that this is your number one person, I'm not sure if that would be a motivator for others to try and get to that one piece or become more competitive. I think if you could come up with some group metrics, successes publicly, that would be great. And then, which is so-and-so is excellent at this, he had a great day. We've heard some great feedback from this whole team. Check this feedback out that we received. I think that would be a bit of a more of effective versus saying that this person got the highest metric this week.
Okay, so reaching out to customers and highlighting big successes, positive feedback with the whole team, again, can motivate everyone.
Yeah, if you can get feedback from customers, I don't know how feasible that is in this industry, but that goes a really, really long way. Okay,
great. All right, I'll stop competing with Alan. I've been doing bad things there. That's not good. All right, last question. Excitement and challenges creation of the built environment isn't really captured in the job. A new driver can ultimately have a fulfilling career without progressing out of a mixer, but are about this choice. How can we communicate to the drivers in our industry and their friends and families that their job really matters to society?
It's interesting because I had created this question before the convention was changed to the audio format and before all of this COVID. But actually in our current climate of COVID-19, there is definitely some more information out there with respect to media and communications about being essential service employees and being recognized more compared to your average office worker right now who's working from home. So this is an opportunity to show drivers appreciation and build on the fact that they're the backbone of our economy, but also couple that with the importance of supporting them and providing them the proper safety equipment required to do their roles. And we've all seen in the media about washroom access, etc. So really being open-minded to that and providing the tools that they require to do that. The next piece is capitalizing where drivers share the ownership of their projects and share that pride with their friends and their families as they drive by job sites, roads, buildings that they've contributed to building. Also communicating with their network of friends or family. And this is a good place to do this would be on social media. Again, the Facebook Lives were really cool that Shelley was talking about because then they can ask questions about that and then they can learn more about what that role is like. Certainly know millennials want to know their answers now. This allows us to explain to all parties why their role is not only essential to your organization, but also to the economy as a whole, while highlighting the benefits of the career. It's important to show why the job matters to reduce complacency. Next concept is when you see a skill set in a driver, capitalize on it and give them opportunities to use that skill. If you see really advanced interpersonal skills, maybe having a more front-facing role with customers, perhaps they could perform driving tests, etc. If you see sales or organizational aptitude, maybe discuss the idea of leaving the mixer and talking about some career progression in other roles and what exactly it takes to get there. And I think that's a big piece that hinders people is they just don't know how they're ever going to get to different roles. And this has existed across all industries. And then a final piece of information that I'd like you to consider is the idea of leadership really creating an environment where everyone wants to come to work. And one concept is learning about your employees, talk to them. And I know this might sound silly, but don't let your daily busyness get in the way and ask managers to learn more information about their drivers and then ask them about it. You'll be surprised when you ask someone how their son's hockey game went, or maybe now that it's about how's homeschooling going, how grateful they'll be that you remembered just a piece of information about them and how much more they feel part of a team.
Okay, some excellent points. When it comes to motivation about completing work, again, I had a farming background, so construction was something that always interested me. But I've seen some companies doing really good work when it comes to showing construction photos and then highlighting the completed project and having group shots of the entire team in front of the completed project. Again, just to go back to driving, you're actively involved in making some of the critical infrastructure that the province needs. So trying to really highlight the success of the entire team, and we need to do more of that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, thank you, Anna, for that. We're going to come back to you in just a few minutes. Our third panelist is Kim Rickard. Been in the transportation industry for 36 years and is the president of KRTS Transportation Specialists, a multiple award-winning family-owned and operated business. In the KRTS group, there's Transrep and Rear View Mirror. Kim is currently the president of the Truck Training School Association of Ontario. He's on the board of directors of the Professional Truck Driver Institute. He's the past chairman of the board for the Allied Trade Division of the Ontario Trucking Association and the board of director with the Private Motor Trucking Council of Canada, representing Truck Training Schools Association of Ontario. Morning, Kim, how are you?
Hey, Bart, I'm good. How are you doing today?
Very good. Thank you for joining us this morning. So we'll start off here with you. A few questions regarding education. So how many students per year are currently enrolled in TTSAO member schools, and what's the typical breakdown between AZ and DZ drivers?
Thanks, Bart. Just before we get to that question, I want to wish you and your daughter a happy birthday, and I want to share with you that we have something in common. My son and I celebrate the same birthday, and it was yesterday.
Oh, wow. Okay, very close.
I'm a little older than 51, though, I have to admit. So, you know, and just as a way of an industry background, you know, we've been in business since 1989 and really cut our teeth in the ready mix industry. We opened our business August 10th, and our very first safety meeting, which I believe was either the 15th or 16th, was with Quality Ready Mix, which is now a division of Lafarge. And then we went on to work and still work within the ready mix industry with Lafarge and Dufferin. And so we have a long history of being involved in this sector of the business. And it's near and dear to our heart. It's been very good to our businesses. And, you know, I think that there's a great opportunity when you ask about the breakdown of graduates. TTSAO membership schools are all across the province of Ontario, covering all areas, and we graduate anywhere, depending upon the year, 3,000 to 5,000 students annually. And out of those 3,000 to 5,000, I would say for the most part, most of the years it's on the higher end, and 20 to 25% of those individuals would be DZ. And I just wanted to let the folks on the call know that many who obtain an AZ, even though they have the ability to enter in to driving a tractor trailer, many of them will start their career in the DZ sector, you know, which includes many different sectors. So if you can imagine, you know, as a ready mix industry, if we could get our % of those 5,000 and distribute them amongst the ready mix industry, would certainly help with some of the shortage for sure.
Okay, you raised an excellent point there. When it comes to the types of training requirements, I know there's mandatory training requirements for AZ, but is there anything for DZ?
No, you raise a great comment and question there, Bart. There isn't. We were told, and we were very involved with the mandatory entry-level training, now called entry-level training, because it's going to be a national standard. And many of the stakeholders at the table at the time recommended to the Ministry of Transportation that we do DZ at the same time. You know, I mean, let's face it, these tandem ready mix trucks fully loaded are the same weight as many of the tractor trailers rolling down the road. And you know, I think it also would help legitimize the profession as well when it comes to DZ and you know, make it really worthwhile. I think there's a lot of schools out there, many of our members who do a great job educating people from a DZ and obviously an AZ perspective, but we're working very hard at that, and I know that we're going to be turning to Concrete Ontario to join us when it comes time to make DZ mandatory.
Okay, great. What can the ready mix industry do to try and attract more of your graduates to our industry? I think you covered that a little bit under some of the previous talks, but reaching out to the school more on
Well, first of all, I want to thank Shelley and Anna. You know, I've had the pleasure since the and they're just doing a wonderful job over there on that diversity side. And not knowing Anna, but speaking with her on the phone, she raises some excellent examples as well. I'll circle back to them. But when we take a look, you know, we know that, Bart, you and I know this, maybe some of the caller or people on the, we're working on marketing collateral with Concrete Ontario, and I know that something will be ready for distribution to all of the TTSAO schools. Some of these things have already been talked about, but you know, social media is critical today's day and age, especially when dealing with millennials. And quite frankly, there's you know, a lot of older people are embracing social media, including people like you and I, Bart. These promotional videos that Shelley talked about earlier, and Anna, you know, the messaging is really critical. When we talk about attracting people, the diversity part of it, I mean, there is so many opportunities. You know, just on the field, like in 2019, right across the board in all of our attending and getting their license, and I think that those opportunities are surely out there. So, you know, when we talk about attracting, we have to think about making the job cool. When we're speaking about it and promoting it, it's really important that we focus on those things. And you know, Anna talked about the innovation and the respectfulness. I'll talk a little bit about that more under question 3, but you know, where's the message going? Who's it being delivered to? How's it being heard? I mean, I think that ReadyMix, and you know, there's some real great opportunities for someone. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that under question 3.
Okay, great, thank you. So let's jump to that. Your graduates telling you that they're looking for in a company after they complete their training. I know Anna was highlighting some of the things that new hires are often looking for, but what are you hearing directly from the students that are taking your programs?
So what we're hearing right across the board, part, obviously pay, benefits, something that the ready-mix industry has that many other sectors of the trucking industry doesn't have is the home time. The pay is really good, especially as an entry-level driver. I think that the driver finishing programs at the ready-mix companies, we've been working with some companies. When I say we, many of our training facilities, our own included, and you know, there's actually been at the ministry training colleges, universities for DZ ready-mix operators. So, you know, I think that one of the things that can be done is that the graduates have to understand that there is a career path. I don't think as a whole the ready-mix industry does a good enough job at getting that message to the students. I think, I'm speaking in general here, I don't think that the ready-mix industry currently sees entry-level drivers and working with driving schools as a viable option, and I'm here to suggest that it really is. I mean, there is a tremendous amount of talent, and there's some really good schools out there, and these people have options. So, you know, they're hearing from all of the different throughout their training period, and they want stability, they want a career path, they want a good pay. Benefits are very important, and what are the other opportunities once they get involved? You know, I think Anna gave an excellent example with the Miller Waste story, and they want to be educated as well. I mean, the message out there is that it's long hours, and that certainly doesn't have to be the case. The continued education is really important. Are other millennials involved in the company? You know, get your millennials talking to those younger people that are coming in for the interviews, for the tours. The mentoring part, you know, the match is critical. Really important when they're learning the tools of the trade. properly with similarities, similar likes. You know, we find out ahead of time if the person's into sports or travel or technology, and then line them up with a mentor who has those similar things that they can talk about while they're going through their education and training. And Anna also mentioned the science of data. I mean, we need to really utilize this in order to share with the graduates that this is a really viable career, and that they need to give Ready Mix an opportunity and a chance.
Okay. No, it's great points. And I know, as we started off by saying, we're a local industry. We have 270 concrete plants across the province. We're in every small town. Association joined TSAAO as a member just 9 or 10 months ago, and again, our interaction with your association has been great, and we need to do more to let your members know that we're out there too, and we should communicate a little bit better. So thank you for all the efforts you're doing. So,
well, thank you, Bart. It's been a really good relationship for just a little under a year there, and I know that it's only going to get.
Okay, as we were talking about before, given the fact that our industry needs drivers to fill a technical and customer service role, as well as being a professional driver, what's the best way to identify people that would be interested in those additional responsibilities? Because we realize not everybody is maybe interested in those components of the job.
Great question, and I think, you know, the key is when marketing and advertising and promoting that the companies promote all opportunities at the you know, within the industry. I think that, you know, when you take a look at the technical side and the science of concrete, as Anna mentioned before, I mean, I think there's a huge would be a huge interest from those types of folks that have that interest in science and data and, you know, dispatching. And I think that career path, again, is really critical when people can actually look at something in writing and say, oh, okay, so here in this silo is an opportunity to be on the technical side or the customer service side. I think the industry, and maybe you've done this already, but if you have, I haven't seen it, where you list all the jobs that are available. And that could be something in our marketing strategy moving forward, Bart, that, you know, in our message to all of the TTSAO schools and their graduates is all the other opportunities that are out there within the industry. You know, I think that when we're looking at these folks, again, Anna mentioned psychometric testing. You know, there's specific tools for drivers with psychometric testing. You know, we're involved in a company called TransClick, and if anybody is interested in learning more about that side, the psychometric testing for the drivers, we'd be happy to take that offline and share that with you. But, you know, the psychometric testing is also available for the technical side, the customer service role, and that's what people, I mean, that's what we need to embrace, and people do think that's cool, and being able to do that and seeing that, you know, I think one of the things, and this just isn't in the ready mix industry, this is right across the board, truck driving does not need to be seen as a last resort career, and often it is, especially even at a high school level. You know, these counselors, they're not promoting all of the opportunities in transportation and all the different sectors, like the technical side, the customer service side, and you know, we need to work in harmonization at an early age at the high school level to ensure that these people are there for sure.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest challenges for the entire construction industry. Again, from a high school standpoint, it's university first, college second, and there's very little talk about skilled trades or construction work in general, and that's one of the biggest challenges we probably have to overcome.
Yeah, for sure, Bart. And, you know, working back with Shelley there and the Women's Trucking Federation of Canada, they've done an amazing job at getting the message out. I mean, the last couple of years of marketing that they've done, the trailer now that's out there that Shelley's pulling around, thanking our essential workers, and the messages and the meetings that she's been involved with. You know, when we take a look at diversity, I really want to commend Anna for some of the things that she's mentioned. I mean, there is some wonderful opportunities that we need to embrace. And, when it comes to the messaging, let's make sure everybody's included. Let's not just, excuse my terminology, but let's not just have that white 30-year-old on the poster. We want to include everybody, and diversity is such a key part of, and going to be a key part of our success in industry.
Okay, great comments.
Thank you.
All right. Again, we have to address the elephant in the room. Obviously, with COVID-19, there's a lot of additional challenges that everyone's been facing. I know for us in the concrete industry, it's really, we're fortunate in that we have been deemed an essential service, and we're very fortunate as an industry to be able to provide for our families and continue working and supporting the rest of the country. So we're thankful for that. We're able to, in many instances, maintain that 2-meter physical distancing when it comes to driving a ready-mix truck. So we've been doing things in the industry like moving away from paper ticketing to electronic ticketing, coming up with new protocols. Kim, we partnered with your association to develop in-cab driver training safety protocols. So again, we want to thank you for all of your support and efforts there. And maybe I have to ask you one, going from the standpoint of getting the training industry back up and running.
Yeah, well, that's a really good question in reference to the message that has been their schools can be open or not. We really appreciated working with you and IHSA and that in-cab driver safety protocol for entry-level drivers. But to answer your question, some of the schools are open. In the memo that came from the ministry, was to seek legal counsel as well as deal with your local bylaw officers. I can say that safety protocol that we put together collectively, Bart, played a huge part in some of the schools being open, because that, along with their own protocols for temperature checks and staggered start times, although the schools are maybe operating at a 25% capacity within class and within in yard, they're doing students one-on-one. But I think the near is coming. Meaning, I think the negotiations are underway, and I think we're going to be. I don't like predicting. Yogi Berra has said that a long time ago. One of the worst things you can do is predict something or try to predict something, but sooner than later. I really do. I know that the way that the contract is spelled out with MTO and Serco, that once they agree to open the doors, Serco has 10 business days to be up and running. And I think I'm being very glasses half full and optimistic, but we're going to be back at it sooner than later. Okay, well, that's great. And I know it's a critical issue for the entire transportation industry to get drivers out and ready. And obviously there's been delays in doing driver's tests and getting people licensed. So again, we'll provide all the support that we can. I'll finish off here. Obviously, the key is respect for the driver. And as an association, that's really what we want to push. We've been putting out a lot of publications. Again, we need everyone to respect our drivers out on the job site, to respect their vehicles, to not touch the vehicle. We have decontamination procedures for things like concrete have to be touched by the contractor. But again, we've seen very strong support from the construction industry when it comes to respecting drivers and maintaining that safe physical distance. So we thank people for that. We're just going to quickly walk through some of the resources so you have it later. All of our safety publications are available on the Concrete Ontario website under under public. TSSAO has some upcoming events. So again, you've got your Christmas meeting and luncheon in December and your annual conference in February. So we've got the link here to the TSSAO website for people. Again, back to Shelley's organization, Women's Trucking Federation. We've got the Bridging the Barriers seminar coming up on September 16th and 17th. So again, we encourage people to participate in that. And again, we'd like to thank Anna for all of her time and efforts
and the work that she's doing to support the industry. And again, if you've got some HR questions, you can always reach out to Anna, and her contact information is here. So at this point, I'm going to hand it back to Alan to see if we have any questions for our panelists.
We do have a few here. Personally, myself, I have a question about the younger generation. Obviously, the younger generation wants to be more in an industry that's tech savvy. Our industry tends to be very old school. So how do we actually make our industry more tech savvy, more appealing? Like Kim even mentioned, and some of the other presenters, cool. Social media is a big aspect of our association. But what do we need to do in terms of marketing to get that younger crowd interested?
Okay, why don't we start? Go ahead.
I think that definitely presenting yourself on different, like your job postings on different avenues compared to your traditional ones would be very helpful. And you can even look, there's a lot of Facebook demographic groups. Certainly where I live in Thornbury, there is a Thornbury Citizens that's got thousands and thousands of members. Looking for regional hires, look at some of those regional Facebook groups and then request to put a posting in there, and you may get some really good candidates. One other idea, and I know it doesn't have to be robust and when I suggest this, you may assume that it's really expensive, but can organizations create just a small app for their businesses? And it can be even just a basic app that has the employee handbook on it, so it's accessible from the employees' phones, and then it can become as built out. Obviously, the sky's the limit when it comes to apps, and there's some safety features that you can put on apps. But I think one of my suggestions is just invest in creating a small app to begin with for your organization, and then there's that shared ownership of, when you start, download our app as an employee, you can, and then it links to our social media, etc.
It's Kim here. Anna raises some there, and I think Shelley, she talked about the messaging being important, and when we talk about the technical side of ReadyMix and those folks getting the message out, these short little videos, that can be easily done and inexpensively, shared on social media, really important. And I think the other part of it is, I think we all mentioned it, was the fact that we need to get the message out there that these opportunities are available, and not just for drivers.
Okay, thank you very much. The next question is, how do you sell the long hours and working in all weather conditions to the millennials who don't like to work long days or in the winter months?
So,
go ahead, Kim.
No, please. Go ahead.
I was going to say one piece of looking at the reward at the end of the tunnel, and maybe if that's with that it's a little bit quieter in the winter, maybe show them the idea that then you can travel in the winter and go on a trip. So look at understand what their goals are, recognize that this industry does pay quite well, and then show them the achievement of those goals. So that would be one of those scenarios, and that goal is probably not purchasing their own house. So recognizing what they are looking to do.
Anna, it's Kim here. That's exactly the road I was going down here in reference to. As an entry-level ReadyMix driver, I think we can all agree that they're going to be working in the summer when it's busy, and possibly be off in the winter. And one of the things, and we do work with ReadyMix companies now that are in our facility regularly recruiting, and one of the things that they talk about, if you want to be off in the winter, if you have the luxury of doing that, great. But if not, you have the luxury of going to work for a carrier in the winter, so you can stay working. And we've actually seen scenarios where people have gone to work in the ReadyMix industry. Come the fall or the winter, when they get laid off, they actually went to work for a carrier, explained to the carrier, hey, I'm available for 3 or 4 months, but I will be going back to the ReadyMix. And the carriers are embracing them because we all know that the shortage that's on the other side of the fence, right? So that can be used as a real strong supportive sell as well.
That's great. That's pretty much it for the questions. Again, thank you very much to Bart, Shelley, Kim, and Anna. Fantastic panel this morning. And we really appreciate your feedback and get a different perspective on the industry, not just ready mix, but just drivers in general. So thank you to the entire panel again. Now, what's next? In terms of the next webinar, we will be skipping July. There is no webinar in July. Ready mix producers and their members are really, ramping up the season, trying to push as much concrete as we can out now that some of the restrictions for COVID-19 have been lifted. For August, we are looking at potential topics of specifying low carbon concrete, or we're going to be looking at some innovative concrete research that's either done at universities or other research aspects. If you do have any suggestions for topics, please feel free to email me, and we can definitely look into getting a presenter to get some other topics out there. So again, thank you very much to the panel. Thank you very much to everybody who tuned in this morning, and have a great day.